interested in photo ops.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offense against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, June 12th, 2018, getting on to the middle of the month here. A lot of stuff going on today, so let's just get right on into it. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phones, put you on the air with your comments and questions. Obviously, the big news of today is that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un had their little summit meeting. There was a morning breakfast, then a break, and then a main meeting. And they've signed this document, which they showed off the signatures and everything over there in Singapore. And Trump is laying on the praise to Kim Jong-un, saying Kim Jong-un is very talented. We've developed a very special bond, and basically said it worked out better than anybody could have hoped. Maybe. But let's not put the bunting up just yet, because all these two leaders did is trade promises. This little document they've signed is not a formal treaty, so it doesn't really carry the weight of law. It outlines a plan to be implemented somewhere down the road. Now, it's being reported there were basically 4 items on the document. And that was the United States and North Korea commit to establish new U.S.-North Korean relations in accordance with the desire of the peoples of the two countries for peace and prosperity. Sounds kind of boilerplate to me. Item number 2, the United States and North Korea will join their efforts to build a lasting and stable peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. Also rather boilerplate. And South Korea obviously would be part of that. Item number 3 is where it comes to the meat. Reaffirming the April 27th, 2019 Panmunjom Declaration, North Korea commits to work toward complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And then finally, item number 4, the United States and North Korea commit to recovering POW MIA remains, including the immediate repatriation of those already identified. Now, those sound really good, but critics are already pointing out that the denuclearization is being handled as a process. North Korea commits to work toward complete denuclearization. It's not going to be immediate. There's no timetable on it. And it's entirely possible this is supposed to be worked out in subsequent meetings between high-level officials. But a lot of Trump's critics are saying, basically, Kim Jong-un won this one, because Kim Jong-un has had a tremendous boost in his personal prestige, having a summit with the President of the United States of America. And so he's walking away from this looking really, really good. It's boosted his image. Over in Asia, that kind of thing is very important in regional politics. Your face, your honor, your status. And Kim Jong-un has played this up to make himself look really good. And he did get that. And again, all that was really signed was promises. Now, Donald Trump did announce, as a sign of good faith, that he was going to halt the military exercises the United States has been conducting with South Korea as part of the commitment to denuclearization from North Korea. Now, Trump said the war games were very expensive and very provocative, and yet stopping them was seen as a major concession that the U.S. previously refused until they could get to the summit. Now, the Pentagon is saying they have yet to actually receive any orders to stand down the assets in that area. One more thing about that list of promises, item number 3. It talks about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, not just North Korea. Now, South Korea doesn't have nuclear weapons, but they've worked most of the way to being able to very quickly build them under the supervision of the IAEA. And they've reported everything that they've done. They have stockpiles of the necessary materials. They've got the engineering all set to go. So that technology is going to be a factor in the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Now, during the Cold War, the United States kept nuclear weapons in South Korea, but bit by bit during the George W. Bush administration and Obama, these weapons were pulled back home in a response to certain treaties regarding short-range nuclear-tipped missiles. So as of right now, officially, the United States does not have any nuclear weapons inside South Korea. What nuclear weapons are on those military assets out at sea is open to question. Supposedly, they're denuclearized as well, but one can never really be sure. But definitely, South Korea's nuclear technology will be an issue. So we're a long way away from this being a done deal, but at the moment, it puts the possibility of a military attack against North Korea on the back burner and allows the U.S. government to shift its focus back over to Syria and Iran. And I'm sure people like Lindsey Graham, they're out there saying, darn, 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 I wanted this war going now. Or Josh Bolton. We're going to do a shout out now to our honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. Apparently, Donald Trump invited Kim Jong-un to visit the White House, and Kim Jong-un has accepted. And apparently, going on down to Singapore, really was kind of revelatory for Kim Jong-un. And part of this talk about economic development is that Kim Jong-un wants to move away from the hard Marxism and start doing what Singapore is doing, because it's certainly working in Singapore. If you've ever seen it, it's a gorgeous place. Gorgeous, gorgeous place. Now, CNN is not doing well in the ratings. In fact, more people are watching Nickelodeon than watch CNN, and part of the reason is their behavior. So CNN's Jim Acosta was over there in Singapore, and he was just shouting questions at Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un at very inappropriate moments. Wasn't a press conference. In fact, he was shouting during the actual signing of the document, which is a formal occasion that is not supposed to be interrupted. And if you see the video of that going on when Jim Acosta is shouting, Trump is just ignoring him. But the last word I'm hearing is that the White House is basically asking for CNN to revoke Jim Acosta's press credentials, or they're going to revoke his White House press credentials, because he basically, at what should have been an extraordinary historic moment, if for no other reason than the meeting between the President of the United States and the President of North Korea, for Jim to just behave like that. And apparently there was, all over Twitter, they were just on his case for his childish behavior. All right, so let's get on over to the war zones here, because there's plenty of war to keep people like Lindsey Graham and Josh Bolton happy. Syria is getting ready to launch a major offensive into the southwest towards the Israel contact line. This is the line that Israel drew across the Golan when they stole it from Syria. and I don't think Syria is going to cross it, but they want to clean the rebels out of that southwest area. Now, as of right now in Syria, the remnants of ISIS and Al-Qaeda are all in the areas controlled by the U.S. Syria has gotten rid of them in Syrian territory, and now they want to finish this up. And Syria has sent a message to the United States: we are coming into these areas to go after the rebels. Please do not oppose us. And so it's going to be very, very tense. And it may turn out to be a very rapid operation. And it might be that Russian and Syrian staff officers are already planning a classical Soviet deep operation offensive to just overwhelm and break up the enemy. But it's very significant that the Syrian government has sent the United States government a clear and unambiguous directive. We are going after ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Do not get in our way. And they have ample reason for doing that, because during this whole time when the United States claimed that they were in Syria to get ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they were actually protecting them. The Syrian government was complaining about it. The Iraqi government was complaining about it. We know that the U.S. was covertly supplying and arming ISIS and Al-Qaeda and these various other rebel groups to use as proxies against Bashar al-Assad. Now, at this point, the United States has no legal justification to still be in Syria. The Syrian government doesn't want them there. The Syrian government has not given them permission to be there. There's been no declaration of war between the United States and Syria, and there is no United Nations Security Council resolution authorizing it. And yet the United States stays in Syria and tries to dictate to the Syrian government what to do in their own country. It's basically, again, showing our foreign policy has devolved into you do what we say or bad things happen to you. Like the mafia here. Meanwhile, the Syrian army has repelled a militants attack coming from the U.S.-held area on Palmyra. So the U.S. is still trying to get this thing going. And meanwhile, U.S. airstrikes have killed 18 civilians in northeast Syria. So the bloodshed and the bombs keep going on, going on. We're getting another warning from Russia about a pending false flag chemical weapon attack in Syria to allow the United States to launch in at least more cruise missiles, if not an outright invasion. This prediction centers on Deir ez-Zor, and all we can do is wait for it to happen and know that this is what our government does to keep the wars going. Now, the other day, the other day we were talking about, in fact, it was just yesterday, we were talking about the recent elections in Iraq where Muqtada al-Sadr had won by a huge majority. And then all of a sudden, all of the U.S.-backed politicians in Iraq started demanding recounts, a do-over, a redo, and that was followed by the burning of the warehouse where the ballots were kept. Iraq has a system a lot like the United States. The ballots are counted electronically, but then they are stored for hand recounting if necessary. But unfortunately, half the ballots have now burned up. As I said before, it could be one of two cases. It could be Muqtada having cheated to win, except that he was not in control of those voting machines. Or it could be that the U.S.-backed politicians in Iraq want to force Muqtada out. They want to force a new election that they can steal. And the only way they can get a new election is to be able to make it impossible to verify the vote on the old election. But Sadr is rejecting a revote. And he's saying that Iraqis must unite to avoid another civil war, because civil war is exactly what the United States would like to see happen to keep Iraq weak, helpless, under U.S. control, and selling their oil for the U.S. dollar. Up in Afghanistan, Russia is getting involved in diplomatic efforts to try and hook up the Taliban in direct negotiations with Kabul. And according to Sergei Lavrov, the heads of ministries supported the Afghan president call for a direct dialogue with the Taliban members. Now, the U.S. is never going to let things settle down in Afghanistan. It's not just the oil pipeline, it's all that opium. If the Taliban and Kabul were to make peace and settle down, again, the U.S. would not have a reason to be there. So they'll find some way to jam a monkey wrench into the gears here. Down in Turkey, Erdogan is talking really, really tough, and apparently he's amping up his campaign against the Kurds. But he's saying that Turkey will use those S-400 missiles. They didn't buy them from Russia just to keep them in a storage locker. And basically adding that the purchase was to reduce Turkey's dependency on U.S. arms supplies, especially as they continue to perform so poorly. Up in Ukraine, Kiev is testing the Javelin missile system. And this, of course, is to defy Russia. Russia's trying to calm everything down in Ukraine, and Kiev is out there with these missiles that were basically given to Kiev by the United States. Down in Israel, interesting little story. Apparently, Israel was forced to demolish some settlers' homes because the illegal settler families actually just built their settlements on private Palestinian property to which there was a solid title. So Israel has come on in, and they're dismantling the illegal homes, but they're going to set them up on another piece of disputed property nearby. And meanwhile, these settlers are getting $16.7 million for all their trouble. And the reason I'm reporting this is because every time that Israel demolishes a Palestinian home, there's never any compensation. And in those cases, Israel doesn't rebuild the homes in a new location. Remember, we talked about this situation. This goes back to the Bloody Monday massacre, about how people had pointed out that the snipers' rifles being used by those snipers to kill those and cripple those people were part of Great Britain's military aid to Israel. And a lot of people were saying Great Britain ought to be making sure that these weapons are not being used to kill civilians. And the official response from Great Britain is saying, no, we're not interested in assurances from Israel over the use of British arms killing Palestinian civilians. It's business as usual. You bought them, you use them for whatever you want. We reported on this story the end of last week, but it's definitely moving forward. Israeli authorities have been caught on video excavating portions of the historic Bab al-Rama cemetery next to Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. The cemetery is believed to contain the final resting places of two companions of Islam's prophet Muhammad. For you Christians out there, that's the equivalent of finding the burial place of a disciple. That's how important that would be. But they don't know exactly where in the cemetery they are. But the Israeli authorities, Israel's Nature and Parks Authority, are digging up part of the cemetery and planning to build a national park trail. Now, anytime there is so much as a scratch on a Jewish grave, everybody screams anti-Semitism, so forth and so on. Here you have a Muslim graveyard that is historically significant, and they're just knocking part of it over for a park trail. So, looking at what Netanyahu's been doing lately, realizing how bad a mistake he made with the optics of the Bloody Monday massacre, followed by the shooting of that Palestinian medic, Netanyahu is now trying to find a way to drive a wedge between the Palestinians and the Gulf states. Because the Gulf states, they're very angry at what's going on. not so much because of the Palestinians, but because they too are Muslim, and they're seeing Israel's attitude toward their fellow Muslims, although to be fair, there are also Christians in Gaza. So apparently, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump are going to propose a new peace plan, which will be much closer to the Israeli government positions than previous U.S. peace plans. And Netanyahu is expecting the Palestinians to reject Trump's plan, thus creating an opening for the Gulf states to support it and distance themselves from the Palestinian leadership while inching closer toward Israel. And they're doing that because there's a common view of Iran as the main threat in the region, which we know is another invention by Israel itself. These Middle Eastern nations, they're being played. They are being played. All right, we're going to take a break here for commercials, and we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just scratch yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And if you are able to support Republic Broadcasting, or for that matter, whatreallyhappened.com, this is a time when we really need it. Equipment wears out, breaks, we have to replace it. Costs for services like hosting are going up. And we are in a time right now where the powers that be are trying to scare advertisers away from the independent media. The only advantage we have right now is that we have a large audience, and it's growing, as opposed to corporate media whose audience is shrinking. More people are watching Nickelodeon than CNN right now, as I mentioned before. So if you can help Republic Broadcasting, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Road, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number to call in and pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours and extension 3 at all other times. Getting on back to the situation with Israel, there's an interesting story that came on out from Associated Press, no less. And they're polling people both in the United States and Israel, Jewish people, about what's been going on in Israel. And they're starting to see a major schism open up, where American Jews, which Israel relies on for a good part of their donated money, they're not at all happy with what Israel has been doing to the Palestinians, mostly because it's harming the image of Israel, the Jewish state, around the world. And American Jews are concerned. It's reflecting badly on them. So apparently, a survey of the American Jewish Committee showed 77% of Israelis approved of the president's handling of U.S.-Israel relations, while only 34% of American Jews do. 85% of Israelis supported the embassy move. Only 46% of American Jews did. So there's a schism opening up there. Okay. Over in Nicaragua, things are really getting bad. It's basically for 2 months, there is an uprising trying to oust President Daniel Ortega. And it's hard to tell if this is a genuine organic revolution or another one of these staged coups d'etats by the United States government. But a lot of people are concerned because Ortega hasn't really issued any statements for 5 days. And they're wondering if something has already happened to him. Speaking of silence, apparently Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is in fact alive and well. He's been reportedly seen at least once. So it may be that he was grievously injured during the attempted coup, but he did survive, and now he's on his way back here. China is still very angry over the United States opening this $256 million de facto embassy in Taiwan. And it's called the American Institute of Taiwan, but it serves all the functions of an embassy. And China is saying that this is putting a strain on Chinese-American relations. Because, again, China sees Taiwan as part of their entire country, and the United States is starting to make noises like it supports Taiwan's view that it is, in fact, an independent republic, which is kind of hypocritical when you remember how the U.S. insisted that Crimea had to stay part of Ukraine to respect its territorial integrity. Have you noticed how the United States' respect for territorial integrity sort of comes and goes on an ad hoc basis? We need territorial integrity here, but yeah, we're going to whack off pieces of Syria, give them to the Kurds, give them to Israel. So at a time when we're already dealing with a trade war with China, I think goading them this way, along with escalating the tensions in the South China Sea. I'm glad that Trump and Kim Jong-un pulled back a little bit. We don't know if it's permanent. But there are so many places where flashpoints exist, and so many people in governments around the world, like Lindsey Graham and Josh Bolton, who just think war is really cool. And most of these war hawks have never been in a war themselves. They've never been a ground pounder. They had privileged lives. They were in the rear echelons if they served at all. But now they want to be fearless and warlike and mean with other people's children and money. We got to take another break for commercials. We will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. women.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to take a phone call from Jim in Chicago. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Regarding the summit yesterday or this morning, there were two winners. The first winner was Kim. He was able to meet with a sitting American president, and he showed the world that he's very personable, he's friendly, and he's open-minded.
Yes.
Now, the second winner is Dennis Rodman. This is something that he's been working on for the past 5 years. He asked Obama to do it, but Obama sort of brushed them off, and he knows Trump and he knows Kim. So Dennis Rodman is a person that people really need to thank also.
Yes, I agree.
So that's basically it, Michael. You take care.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Yeah, and Dennis, of course, has no official capacity in any of this, so he's got to be careful that he doesn't actually violate the Logan Act. But yeah, he was definitely a facilitator in all this, and I hope Donald Trump will remember that. Now, the governments of Germany and France have agreed to create a joint European army. Presumably, the other member states of the EU will come in as well. But people are pointing at this and saying this may be the beginning of the end of NATO, which a lot of people see as a redundant relic of an Atlanticist past. And it's another indicator that Europe is going to go its own way from the United States of America. NATO was kind of the military glue that hooked them all together. That may not be true anymore. Military experts are warning that U.S. drone strike policy may backfire because the more the United States shoots these drones into other people's countries and kills people or bombs things, the more and more these other countries are acquiring the remnants of drones that are brought down, like the way Iran brought down that surveillance drone. And they can copy it and make their own, which Iran has done. And a lot of people are very concerned because ever since the United States started doing drone strikes, it was always with the attitude of, well, we can do them to the rest of the world and they can't touch us. But those days are not going to last forever. And if we're not careful about reestablishing peace and diplomacy, we could see drones coming across our border to attack key individuals. Wouldn't even have to be from a nation state. The drug cartels have the money to build these kind of devices, send them over the border, target key people. It's always the danger when you come up with a new whiz-bang weapon. It's only a matter of time before it gets into the hands of people who do not like you. I mean, look how hard they tried to protect the secret of the atomic bomb. And the Soviet Union still got it. Story coming out of Blacklisted News here. And basically, the U.S. Army is planning to deploy autonomous killer robots on the battlefield by 2028. Boy, what could possibly go wrong, right? I mean, given the high-quality performance of the military's other toys. So I have a real issue with this. And a lot of it has to do with the existing problems with computer vision recognition systems, whether it's the iPhone 10 or the self-driving cars that miss certain things. These autonomous killer robots could very easily kill the wrong target or even a non-target, a civilian. I think it's just another, we need a lot of money for some whiz-bang high-tech project that is going to wind up being another boondoggle like the F-35. Speaking of the F-35, over in Great Britain, they've already acquired 4 of the F-35s they're buying. And somebody pointed out they're parked at the edge of the airfield surrounded by a 5-foot picket fence. That is apparently all the security they have around these multi-million-dollar aircraft, which include lots of top secret and classified technology here. So let's turn to the domestic politics here. There's a lot of stuff going on that is not being covered because of the corporate media's obsession with Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump. And I agree, it was historic. I'm just not ready to say this is a done deal, both because of Kim Jong-un's awareness of the U.S. government's past history of not keeping their word on certain things. People are still talking about this growing scandal over the FBI spying on the Trump campaign and later the Trump transition. And the FBI is out there basically trying to say, oh, we're out there to catch Russians. And we were there to help Trump. We're there to take care of him. And both of those excuses have now been completely discredited. First of all, there were no Russians to catch. In fact, a lot of these agents that were infiltrating the Trump campaign were trying to entrap some of the Trump campaign workers into meetings with Russian assets. They were trying to manufacture this Russian collusion out of thin air, and it didn't work. And as Donald Trump himself said, if the FBI were really doing all of this skullduggery to help Donald Trump steer clear of Russians, why didn't the FBI tell Trump? And Trump has said if there had even been a hint of suspicion Manafort was compromised by the Russians, he never would have hired him in the first place. So the FBI's story is completely falling apart. This is Watergate version 2. And I don't think it stops just with the FBI. We know it involves the Department of Justice and probably CIA and NSA as well. In fact, we're finding out now, apparently, the Department of Justice is having to surrender more of their documents about what was going on. And remember that infamous meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch? Apparently, when word of that leaked out that it had happened, it got out into the public, that caused a minor panic at the Department of Justice. So whatever was really being talked about was some heavy-duty stuff. Over at Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton has won a small victory. They were in court last Saturday, and the court has ordered the Department of Justice to provide more info on the search for Obama Department of Justice Podesta Clinton campaign collusion docs uncovered originally by WikiLeaks. As usual, the Department of Justice is stonewalling or saying not responsive. They're just handing out a few pieces at a time, trying to look like they're in compliance, but they're not. It's just screams of cover-up all over it. Now, Manafort is arguing before the court system that the indictments against him ought to be dropped for the simple reason that they involve allegations of criminality totally unconnected to the Trump campaign or Russia. And he's saying Attorney General Sessions and Rod Rosenstein and Robert Mueller have gone way off the original mission of the special counsel, the Trump-Russia collusion. And now they're on a fishing expedition. And apparently, Manafort has found some very sympathetic judges along the way. There was one last May that said, yeah, we dare not let a special counsel have that much unfettered power. And now we're hearing from Lou Dobbs that Judge Ellis may still side with Paul Manafort in his case against special counsel Robert Mueller and the Department of Justice. Now, it's moving along slowly, but it is moving. Down at Freedom Watch, Larry Klayman is filing a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton for wrongful deaths at Benghazi. Now, I'm not sure how he has come by legal standing to sue. Maybe he's got some of the family members of those Americans who were killed there to come on board and say, we're going to sue for wrongful death, civil damages here. And they have a strong case because the Americans who were at that consulate in Benghazi had requested increased security because of the hostility of the Libyan people toward the United States. And Hillary Clinton's State Department said no. Now, there may be some kind of a claim of executive immunity for Hillary Clinton, but it's going to drag this scandal back out into the light one more time, and I think it needs to be. People need to be reminded of just what our top politicians are really capable of, and it is not pretty. Meanwhile, there's yet another scandal emerging from the Clinton campaign involving the state-level Democratic parties were basically in a scheme to funnel as much as $84 million to Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. Now, Dan Backer, an attorney based in Virginia, excuse me, has filed a lawsuit saying that this plan was put in place to circumvent campaign contribution limits set by the federal government. So instead of donating directly to the Hillary Clinton campaign, they would break it up and donate to the Democratic state-level parties, who then knew they had instructions to basically send it all onto the Hillary Clinton campaign. It was a campaign finance violation. And apparently it's up to 40 states now. Nevada's the most recent one that got involved. All this corruption, and nobody gets arrested, nobody goes to jail. The corporate media ignores it. Even worse, they point to anybody who's talking about it, about, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You know, it's just a nothing burger. You shouldn't be looking at that. That's what sporting events are for. You're supposed to be looking at baseball games and football games and basketball games and not think about how the government's running the country, because really that's way above your pay grade here. Out in California, Governor Brown has finally reached a $200 billion with a B budget deal. And apparently some of the things that got cut at the last minute were expanded access to health care and tax breaks to undocumented Californians. Well, there's a surprise to me that undocumented Californians are actually paying taxes. But the $200 billion budget deal has set aside enough money in reserves to fill the rainy day fund with almost $14 billion. And another $2.2 billion is set aside for unexpected emergencies. So the sum of these two set-aside funds give the state around $16 billion in total reserves, which they hope is enough to weather a mild recession that may be coming along here. Now, obviously, with the signing of the document between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, investors are already drooling over the possibility of getting into North Korea, and I'm sure that includes a lot of South Korean interests as well, because of the vast mineral resources that North Korea has, and not to mention all that opium, of course. But investors are already starting to talk about coming up with these ventures, setting up mining ventures inside North Korea to extract these minerals. And that will bring a lot of money into North Korea. Like I said, looking at Kim Jong-un touring around Singapore, it looked to me like he was impressed. He was sufficiently impressed, where he really does want to have some reforms in North Korea. The big open issue is going to be what kind of security guarantees can the U.S. give him that he really is in a position to trust. That really is the sticking point here. Venezuela's hyperinflation is totally out of control. It soared 24,000% in the past year. And President Maduro's government controls most of the country's economy and is in the midst of an ever-deepening crisis with food and medicines in short supply. And the government blames U.S. sanctions and businessmen who are speculating on the problems, vulture capitalists, in other words. And the Venezuela situation is so bad, a lot of them are crossing the border illegally into Colombia, and now Colombia is feeling the pinch from that as well. Now, here's an article, and I have to admit, when I first saw this, I wasn't really sure about it, because this is from Fox News, and it's called Voluntarily Vagrant, Homeless Youth, a Crusty Urban Challenge. And the story is that you're seeing a lot of young adults and they go by many names like Krusty Punks, Krusties, Gutter Punks, Crumb Bums, Dirty Kids. And it's young adults who they're claiming have chosen a homeless urban lifestyle. And I have a hard time with that one. I don't think anybody really wants to be homeless. It's a very dangerous environment out there, sleeping on the streets. And I understand that people who are homeless long enough do get used to it, and their desire to get back into a home starts to fade. But for somebody to simply say, I'm going to be voluntarily homeless, I think there's something else going on here that's not being talked about. Whether these are kids who were living with their parents, but the parents can't afford to support them anymore, or what's going on. But I see this as a very sick indicator of the state of our economy. And apparently these young people, they're doing drugs in the local parks. They apparently have enough money for illicit drugs. They're making camp, sleeping outside storefronts. And there's been a few incidents of violence. I don't think it's as simple as it's being portrayed in the story, that these kids just decided they wanted to avoid the 9-to-5 lifestyle and just voluntarily be homeless. I don't buy that. Something else is going on here that is not being talked about. But if you look at all the homeless and hungry in this country, in every city, in every state, you can't look at that and say that this economy is in good shape or is in recovery. It isn't. And claims that the economy is doing wonderfully and unemployment is low and inflation is down, they're all lies. Open your eyes and take a look around this country for yourself and see if it looks like a country with a good economy. And if you want a reference, look at those videos of Donald Trump in Singapore. Look at the city of Singapore. That's a country with a good economy, with a real good economy. You compare that to what the United States looks like, you will understand. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Over in Great Britain, as you know, the battle between the Brexiteers and the Remainers is still ongoing, even though the British people overwhelmingly voted to leave the European Union. There are still those politicians who have sold out to Brussels, not to mention Brussels itself, who are trying to find a way to derail it. And one of their last-ditch efforts was an attempt to have the House of Lords, or rather, this was an attempt by the House of Lords to impose a new amendment on the European Union withdrawal bill, which would grant Parliament the final say over Brexit negotiations. In other words, they could vote to say, Brexit's called off, we don't like the deal, and to heck with what the British people want. So the House of Lords, which is like our Senate, except they're unelected, tried this amendment. It went to the full Parliament, and the Parliament voted it down. So that means the vote of the British people stands. They want out of the EU. It's probably one of the reasons why George Soros is saying that everything that could go wrong has gone wrong with his globalist dreams here. The British media are starting, apparently, to lose patience with Theresa May's weakness on the Brexit deal. The Sun, the Daily Mail, and the Telegraph have just been putting out these columns and opinion pages that are issuing these ominous warnings to the Prime Minister to change course. And the Sun is saying she should prepare for no deal and said if she just doesn't get going and get Brexit done, that she should quit. Now, Theresa May talked the language about Brexit when she was campaigning, but a lot of observers have said that really inside she's a Remainer. Now, as you know, over in Italy, and this is another reason why George Soros is losing sleep at night, there was a national election which resulted in the two most Eurosceptic parties winning in a landslide and forming a coalition government which is closing the borders. No more refugees coming on in, send them someplace else. We don't want them. And they're pulling away from Brussels. They haven't announced that they're ditching the euro for the lira just yet, but that's been talked about. Well, this last weekend, they had their municipal elections across Italy. They have a different system than us. They have the national elections on one day and the local elections on another. And once again, the Eurosceptic candidates swept the field. So this is the beginning of the pushback. This is the beginning of the pushback with all of this stuff. People don't like this stuff. So let's see. Now, Judicial Watch is filing more lawsuits against George Soros and his various organizations, basically trying to find out exactly what's been going on and who's really paying for it. Now, a lot of people think Soros is very rich, and he is. His Open Society foundations, he basically started them with $18 billion with a B. But apparently there are cases where U.S. taxpayer money is going through his organizations. He's being used as a front. We got to take a break for station identification. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we have a caller waiting on the line, Veronica in Iowa. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast posted his opinions in regard to Kim Jong-un today, and I think he's got some pretty valid points here. He says, so what does Kim Jong-un want? He wants his nation to be modernized. He wants his nation to have trade with the world. So how do you get it? You develop something you don't really need that shocks the world. Then you make a deal to give it up in return for what you actually want. In other words, the entire nuclear program was designed to get the U.S. to negotiate with them for something they could afford to give up and still keep their power. And that is why they will denuclearize. That was always the plan. He goes on later in the article to say that Kim knows Trump could lose the re-election in just a few years, and this opportunity could pass.
Yes.
The next guy likely wouldn't be a deal maker. He also knows he could make this deal, cement his power, and likely this deal will guarantee that he will be dealing with Trump until 2024, as it will cement Trump's re-election. And I sent you the link to this article in the RBN's general mailbox. I didn't know what else to say, but it's a gosh darn good article. And Jack's a pretty sharp guy. I think you'd like Jack Spirko a lot. He's a pretty good guy.
Well, I've actually heard that from other sources, that the only reason North Korea built the nuclear weapons was to basically be able to negotiate with the United States as equals, which is exactly what the world saw when the President of the United States sat down with Kim Jong-un. Like I said, Kim Jong-un, at least in the immediate mode, he's the winner of this. He gets a big prestige boost out of this thing. But it's entirely possible that you're right, that the nuclear bombs were built to basically bring North Korea up to the same level as the United States for the purposes of negotiation. The concern I still have is that we've seen the United States go into countries, get them to surrender their weapons of deterrence in exchange for security guarantees, and then turn around and invade them. They did that in Libya, they've done it in Syria, did it in Iraq, and maybe the reason that North Korea isn't concerned about that is, as you say, they intended to denuclearize all along.
Correct. And, of course, everybody wants the prison camps gone, et cetera, but you can't exactly let those people just go because he would wind up being very likely very dead over that, much like Gaddafi.
Well,
style.
hang on a second. We need to remember that a lot of what most Americans think they know about North Korea is just made up by the government and the corporate media. In fact, Fox News actually addressed those phony stories that were put out about how Kim Jong-un threw his uncle into a pit with hungry dogs to be torn to shreds, and how he machine gunned a former girlfriend with a .50 caliber machine gun. And of course, both of those were complete lies. The uncle and the former girlfriend are alive and well. Apparently, he's a minor official someplace, and she's in North Korean media. And that was something that Dennis Rodman brought back. Okay, so we don't know about the prison camps. We don't know how real that is, or if that's just more of this made up, we got to get you to hate the designated enemy propaganda. Because right now, the bovine excrement is pouring out of Washington, D.C. and the corporate media so much, it's giving the Hawaii volcano a run for its money.
That was a good one. It was excellent. And you're right. I mean, if you go back and trace back all of the false flag excrement that this country has pumped and at us, and the people just gullibly scoop it up.
Well, not anymore.
Their fists in the air and go, USA, USA, war, USA. I just shake my head, and then they go back to their football game. So that's kind of where we're at with the American people. It's embarrassing. It really is. It's embarrassing how little people know today.
Well, that's by design. That's what the corporate media and the education system is intended to do, is to make you believe that you know what's going on without letting you know what's going on, to make you believe that you have a fine education when you're not really educated all that well. And those are hallmarks of any government that's on its way down to dictatorship. They don't want people who are knowledgeable and able to think and analyze and reason things out logically. They want obedient drones, is what they want.
And those are indoctrination camps. Those aren't educational systems.
Well, what's the difference?
They are none. They are nothing but indoctrination camps that teach you what they want you to be programmed with.
Yes.
And we see that with the millennial generation, which again is just a whole other story in itself. Their plan is working well, and that's too bad. And thanks to people like you, the truth does get out there, and people do become awake. And like I say, my daughter is the teacher that was the diehard leftist, liberal, tree-hugging, anti-gun person, and has made a complete turnaround there. And hooray!
Mm-hmm.
There's hope. So she had to have her head held down in the swamp for quite a while to wake up, though. And one of the bigger things that got her was one of her 7th grade students came to her and said, my grandma said it's about time for me to start having babies. And I'd kind of like to finish high school and maybe go to college. What should I do? I mean, they're just, creating this cycle of welfare and keeping people dumbed down and uneducated, and we're in a sad state of affairs.
Keep them consuming, keep them working away, powering the economy. Except the economy itself is breaking down. We don't have enough jobs for the people who are out here. I know the government is claiming otherwise. Oh, we don't have enough workers for the new jobs we've created. There are plenty of workers out there. Haven't been able to find work for months and years. Anyway, Veronica, anything else?
No, I wanted to comment that you're very, very right. Everybody's foaming at the mouth to get the natural resources out of North Korea. They're just clawing over the top of each other to be first in. So
yes,
Thank you so much for everything you do, and keep up the good work.
I will just as long as I can. Thank you very much for the phone call. All right, the phone lines are empty. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And I got an interesting little email from somebody responding to the voluntary homeless. And to paraphrase it, this reader is saying that this is the start of a desensitization campaign to convince you all that when you see a homeless person that they want to be that way and they're not deserving of any help or assistance upward. That might actually be the case because the homelessness has become such a visible problem all across the country. It is a constant reminder of a failed economy and a government just laced with corruption and mismanagement. And it's a little bit out there, but then think of some of the other really out there propaganda the U.S. government has come on out with. You know, oh, don't feel sorry for those homeless people. They want to be homeless. No, nobody wants to be homeless. We have an instinct toward shelter. All right, we were talking about Judicial Watch. They're filing lawsuits against Soros organizations and against the State Department and the U.S. Agency for International Development. And they're suing because, as usual, they refused to respond to a Freedom of Information Act request. And the lawsuits are basically part of Judicial Watch investigating Soros meddling in Romania and Colombia. He's tinkering all over the world, and it's rather amazing to see the corporate media get all huffy about, oh, Russia's meddling with our internal affairs, and then all of a sudden you realize that not only the U.S. government, but George Soros is constantly, always meddling in other countries' internal affairs here. There was this candidate down in Mexico, politician, Fernando Peron, and he had just finished a debate, and he's running on a platform of cracking down on crime. And he was outside, and he was approached by a woman who had a selfie stick who asked him to take a photo with her. And he posed with her, and this guy runs up behind, shoots him in the head, kills him. Now, I put the actual security video up at whatreallyhappened.com, and I didn't do it for the shock value. But if you look at the woman with the selfie stick, she just calmly, deliberately walks away as soon as the gun has been fired. Obviously part of the hit team. So be very careful of strange women coming up to you with selfie sticks. Okay, over in Maryland, teachers are becoming very, very concerned because the MS-13 gang has infiltrated a predominantly Hispanic school in Maryland, bringing terror and the campaign to recruit young students, not to mention the drug trade. And teachers are saying it's a ticking time bomb. Yes, it was. And it started ticking when those borders were opened and MS-13 was allowed to pour into this country without any control. There was another video we put up at whatreallyhappened.com, and it's basically about a former liberal, young man, former liberal, and why he decided he had to be conservative. And I understand what he's going through. You reach a point where you just can't deal with the outcome of all these liberal policies, like open borders. Because you begin to understand that although liberals can make their ideas sound really wonderful at the outset, they hardly ever work out. In part because liberals don't like to think all the way through, and they reject anything that says this idea is not going to work, but more importantly because liberalism itself is based on an intellectual fraud. The idea that you can change what's inside a person's head by changing the environment, by putting up new restroom signs or making them dress in funny clothes. It doesn't really work that way, but that's the entire foundation of the liberal political philosophy of tinkering with every single aspect of your life. So the school teachers, getting on back to this school This is William Wirt Middle School in Riverdale, and apparently it's become a battleground after the gang established its presence at the school. So there's fighting, drug dealing, graffiti, and there's 2 or 3 fights a day. And estimates are there are already a dozen members of MS-13 inside that school. And that is a major, major problem. Okay, we're finally starting to see some traction on this issue of the abuse of children. And there's this Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. And the Justice Department announced early today that more than 2,300 suspected online child sex offenders have been arrested over the last 3 months. It was a national operation, and the task force identified 195 offenders who either produced child pornography or committed child sexual abuse, as well as 383 children who suffered recent ongoing or historical abuse or who were used in the production of the child pornography. And so this is an operation located in all 50 states and comprising more than 4,500 federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies. And good. This is just so out of control. And I'm glad that they're doing it. And as I said, when I was younger, I was a wild child. I was nobody's idea of a look up to for morality. But there was that line. When it came to children, I have some very deep, primitive, primal, paternal instincts. And I really have no sympathy at all for people who engage in this kind of treatment of children. I really, really don't. Well, there's been a little bit of a happy ending for Johnny Edward Tallbear of Oklahoma City. He spent the last 26 years behind bars on a first-degree murder conviction. And he's been released after a new test of the DNA evidence led to the dismissal of the case against him. Tallbear is now 61. Unfortunately, he's lost his best years. And he had his shackles removed from his wrists and ankles in court, and he just was allowed to walk out the building on his own. He said the first thing he was going to do is get a decent meal, which tells you what the meals are like inside prison. And Tallbear was saying that he's been saying for more than 2 decades that he had nothing to do with this horrible crime. And fortunately, the DNA evidence produced it. Now, Oklahoma County District Attorney David Prater confirmed the case was dismissed based on the DNA evidence that wasn't available at the time of the trial, which went against all the other evidence that led to Tallbear's conviction in 1992. Now, this is the result of this the Innocence Project, which works to identify wrongfully convicted and imprisoned prisoners and works to get them a new trial and new test, because it is a sad reality that a lot of innocent people are put in prison by ambitious prosecutors or crooked judges. And I remember that case a few years ago where this judge was sending these juveniles to this prison factory because he was getting a kickback on that. So the Innocence Project is doing really, really good work, and I'm glad they got this guy out. I hope there's going to be some kind of financial compensation for his lost years, because he's 61. It's not like he's going to be able to find a job. He needs something to live on here. Okay, we're going to take a phone call here. Mike in Virginia. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just thought I'd say something about the economy.
Yes.
And, I can't believe how I keep hearing it from Trump to a certain extent, the mainstream media, how we got more jobs, than people last for. I mean, we got 95 million people that are unemployed, maybe permanently unemployed.
Yes.
And I know it sounds like I'm bashing Trump, and he's tried to do a little bit to help out the economy, but does he think that we're so stupid that we don't realize that, you have 95 or maybe 100 million people that are unemployed, and he's using mainstream media statistics, to create this so-called economic miracle, and it's just farcical,
Well, basically, Donald Trump did not create this situation. He inherited it. The reason our economy is in a mess goes back decades. It goes back with the decline of our manufacturing, the emerging globalism, and the lessening of self-sufficiency. And we're in a situation right now where if most Americans really understood how bad things are and how fragile the economy is and how close to a total collapse we are at, they would probably riot in the streets. So the goal of the government and their lackeys in corporate media is we're going to keep, telling everybody it's all okay. The Soviet Union did exactly the same thing. Pravda and Izvestia were out there saying that everything was just fine right up to the point where the Soviet Union collapsed. Anyway, Mike, we got to take a break for commercials, and thank you for the phone call. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal
what's really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Speaking about liberal, snowflake, political correctness and everything, Netflix is getting ready to launch an LGBT cartoon about drag queen superheroes who save the world from evil. I would have loved to have found out what was going on in the pitch meeting for that one. But Netflix is going ahead with this. It really is rather silly. All right, let's talk about our volcano because it's still volcanoing. More ash eruptions from the Kilauea crater this morning and more moderate earthquakes. And the volcano is kind of settled down, if you will, in that there seems to be just one main lava flow. The other fissures have sort of stopped. But there's this main flow coming out of fissure number 8 that is now following a pretty much set path down to the ocean and plopping on in. And I was watching the press conference from the State Emergency Management Agency and FEMA, in which they're saying they're finally feeling like things are, if not getting better, they're not getting worse. And, of course, that could change, but at least for the moment, they're actually starting to let some of the residents go back to their homes, the ones who still have homes. Obviously, 600 families have lost their homes. And even if you've got insurance, building on that lava will not be possible for a very, very long time. In fact, it's basically a write-off. And I know that because, again, as I mentioned before, Claire and I, when we toured the Big Island, we visited Kaanapali, which was the site of the last major eruption. And that had been like years ago, and the ground was still very, very hot here. Hawaiian Airlines is now going to cut daily flights to the Big Island in July over the expectation that the continuing volcanic activity is going to discourage travelers from going down there. I think it might be premature. And I think there's probably people who want to be volcano tourists. And while you cannot go up to where the volcano is doing its stuff, there are air charters and ocean charters run by licensed, experienced operators where you can get on out there and see the lava running across the countryside or plopping into the ocean. You got to be careful about things like Pele's hair. If that gets in your eyes, that's bad news. Pele's hair is the local name for these very thin strands of glass that result from the lava pulling apart in midair from one chunk to two, and it leaves this thin stream of glass. And it looks like a piece of hair, and hence the name Pele's hair. Okay. In the course of the volcanic activity, the largest freshwater lake on the Big Island was evaporated in just 2 hours after lava poured in. And this was Green Lake. It's now completely, totally gone. And it was 200 feet deep at some places, but once the lava started entering the lake, it took only 90 minutes to boil away all the water. That's how hot the lava is. So you don't want to mess around with it. Now, speaking of lava, we were talking yesterday about Yellowstone and the supervolcano and the concern being raised over the sudden speeding up of eruptions from Steamboat Geyser, which is notoriously slow, can go for years without an eruption. And it's had 8 over the past couple of months. They just had their 9th. So people are definitely very, very concerned about that. All right, so now it's time to talk about human-caused global warming. And I know it's a little early in the show, but we'll get through here. If you are in Missoula, the National Weather Service has issued a frost advisory from, well, they issued it this morning from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. And Locations include Libby, Bull Lake, Eureka, Whitefish, Flathead Valley, and so forth and so on. So gosh darn that human-caused global warming. This is June 12th. There's snow in the Pacific Northwest. There's new snow in Montana. There's now frost warnings in Montana. And this is going to be a real problem for the already overstrained agricultural industry. The growing seasons are getting shorter. The snows arrive earlier. The spring thaw arrives later. All that screaming back there in 2000 about, oh, the world is roasting, it's warming, it's all your fault. Well, it's just more lies. It's a scam. It's just a scam to get your money, get your obedience. Okay, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and we'll be right back with more news after these few words. Stay tuned.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And getting into the world of computers, there's a lot going on, not just computers, but social media. It turns out that Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Twitter are all working with the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is an ultra-left-wing organization. They're constantly attacking conservative organizations. They've basically demonized my website. And so all of these social media are allowing this clearly biased organization to help direct what is good news and what is bad news. And apparently the social media is now hiring specialists to ferret out sites for censorship. Now, a big part of the problem that we have been dealing with here in the independent media, there are websites that have been set up where all they do is put out nonsense stories to try and make us look bad, silly, to trip us up, to wreck our credibility, to try and bolster the corporate media. And something tells me that these deliberate fake news sites are not what they're talking about when they're calling out to censor certain sites. They want to get rid of the truth movement. They want to get rid of the 9/11 truthers. They want to get rid of the anti-vaxxers. They want to get rid of critics of Israel. They want to get rid of anybody who doubts the health and safety of GMO foods. It's all about protecting politics, protecting money, protecting privilege, protecting the existing order. And we're seeing a virtual civil war start to come on out on the internet between the truth and the propaganda. And we can't lose that one, folks. We really, really can't. Now, yesterday we were talking about how Amazon was being chastised because some of their little desktop speaker units were being made at this Chinese factory with like 100-hour work weeks, almost no pay, and really horrible, horrible conditions. Well, Amazon does not own that factory. They merely contract with it. It's owned by a company called Foxconn. And because of the high visibility of what we reported on, and it went around the world, Foxconn is saying that they will investigate the factory that makes these Amazon devices, which doesn't necessarily mean that things will really change, but they're going to go through the motions. Over in Germany, Amazon is being criticized for destroying returned and good as new products in Germany instead of responsibly repurposing much needed resources. And Amazon is being criticized because thousands of items in Germany returned or that never sold, including things like mattresses, tablets, cell phones, refrigerators, washing machines, dishwashers, and furnitures, are simply being thrown away by Amazon, according to German current affairs program Frontal 21, cited by the Berlin weekly Wirtschaftswoche. And according to this TV report, Amazon employees described destroying tens of thousands of euros worth of retail items every day, while other workers noted that not only unsaleable products, but many in as new or brand new condition were disposed of with little effort to reuse. And Amazon is being accused of spectacular corporate irresponsibility, and I would agree with that. That if these items aren't being sold, find somebody who can use them, or at least recycle them. And you know what really bothers me are all these so-called environmentalists running around screaming about the dolphins in your plastic bags. They never look at this. They never look at how destructive of the environment is to dig up natural resources, usually from a freshly invaded country, pour them into a mold to make this year's must-have little fashion accessory. It gets worn or used for 6 months to a year to 2 years. Then it gets thrown in a landfill and the process starts all over again. Talk about waste and damage to the environment. And it kind of makes you, I mean, is Amazon really raking in so much money that they can just throw away all this merchandise? Or is the actual raw cost of the merchandise just not that high to begin with? Let's take a phone call. Kathleen in Texas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Do you mind if I change the topic just for a moment?
Go ahead.
Dr. Jennifer Daniels, you may know, is a talk show host on RBN.
Yes.
And her show is on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And she right now has been put on the she's in Panama, and she's been put on the terrorist watch list because she's always exposes Big Pharma. So Eric, the Freedom Screamer, who's also on RBN, he's on Laurie Anderson's show every evening at 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it would be better to write a letter to the Archbishop of Panama to get as many people as possible making, letting themselves be known to protect her from just being disappeared. So would it be possible for me to give that information, how somebody could write to the actual address?
Yeah, go ahead and speak slowly while people get their pencils and papers out here, okay?
Oh, thank you. Okay, the Archbishop of Panama, and then Roman Catholic Archdiocese, and then a separate line, capital CALLE, space, the numeral 1, space, small r a separate word, capital SUR, separate word, capital CARRASQUILLA, separate line, capital Y, separate space, capital VIA, and the last line is capital ESPANA, comma, capital AV, space, the numeral 1, space, and then capital SUR, comma, Panama.
Okay, would you email that to me along with any other material about what's going on and with Dr. Daniels, and I'll post it at whatreallyhappened.com, and I presume it'll also be posted at RBN.
Okay, I have a corded speakerphone, no internet, no TV, and I don't go out. So if it's okay, I could give you also the phone number and the email address.
Of who?
Of the Archbishop of Panama.
Well, I don't think we need to harass him quite that much here. But would this information be available on Dr. Daniels' own webpage?
I haven't. I just called. I'm in Texas.
Yes.
And I just called to get this information, and happily the local library are so nice, and they looked it up for me.
All right. Well, I'll try and track it down from this end and get it up there because, yeah, we're seeing this concerted attack on anything that is a threat to the medical industrial complex, and it's not just you. Social media is like starting to literally block websites like Natural News, and it's getting pretty intense out there.
Well, she's had a difficulty when her husband died. They didn't want to give her the money from the account, $35,000, and happily a judge said that she should have it, and the bank said, "Oh, we can't find it," but then the judge thought his power was being threatened, and so they immediately found it. but she still can't access her money from the United States. And she went to Harvard, and she went to Wharton School of Business, and she had a practice in New York, and she's just fantastic. And her email address or her website is vitalitycapsules.com, and she's also known as the Turpentine Doctor.
Oh yes, I remember that now. Yes, and she's but she backs up everything she says. She says just go look at the government's own website, and it's she's just tremendous and very brave to tell the truth. And so now she's been put on the active terrorist watch list, so she can't access her money. And well, that's as much as I know. But she is hopeful, and this Eric, the Freedom Screamer, on 9 o'clock on Laurie Anderson's show, he said he believed that writing letters, flooding the office with letters to the Archbishop, because the Archbishop has a lot of power in Panama. Okay.
So that's why. Do you want me to repeat that address?
No. So you don't have a computer, you don't have a cell phone. There's no way you can send it to me electronically. No. Okay.
No, but maybe somebody does. Because I'm going to call John's show after yours and give him this same information. But
okay. All right. Well, I'm looking at her website I'm looking at her website right now. I'm not seeing anything about what she's having to deal with right now, but yeah,
yes,
this sounds to me like
John
it could
will
be
certainly tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
John had her on his show last week, and she explained the whole thing, and so you could access his archive on that show. I'm sure Mike can tell you what day it was.
Okay.
But would you like me to repeat it one more time?
No, but you're going to repeat it on John Stadmiller's show anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think everybody got it once, and thank you for the phone call, and thank you for the update, and I'm going to try and see if I can find some more information about what's going on down there. But we're seeing all of homeopathy or natural medicine, or call it do-it-yourself medicine. It's under attack, and the reason for that is simply that the medical industrial complex, they want your money. The other night I was watching TV, and I saw all these commercials for all these pharmaceutical products, and they were saying this will help lower your TP-L5-QW factor. And it's like, I don't even know that I have that and why it needs to be lowered, but they're just making this stuff up to push product and push product and push product. Medical costs have now become a really significant part of the average American's budget. I think it's in like second place or third place, depending upon how healthy you are. Anyway, Kathleen, thank you very much for the phone call.
Can I just tell you one more thing?
Okay.
If you can look up the Merck, the pharmaceutical company in the late 1800s, and their own pamphlet tells, all of the cures for everything were taking turpentine internally, but there was no money to be made. So it was forbidden to have. They got a law passed that you couldn't use turpentine anymore medicinally, and Vicks VapoRub fought it because their product, Vicks VapoRub, was internationally known, and so they still have it. And if you look at the second ingredient of Vicks VapoRub, it's pure gum turpentine.
Yep.
So, but anyway, thank you very much.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go.
Claire in my prayers.
Well, she appreciates that. She really does. She's getting better. It's just taking a very, very, very long time. All right, so thank you for the phone.
She just needs to talk to Dr. Daniels.
What Claire is dealing with is not going to be fixed with Dr. Daniels capsules. I'm sorry. It's a purely mechanical issue now. So, again, thank you for the phone call, and we're going to let you go. Okay. Now, we were talking about computers. Microsoft has come up with something that at least looks like it's going to be pretty cool. They have built a submarine-like data center, and they've deployed it off the coast of Orkney in Scotland. It houses hundreds of servers under the sea with the aim of boosting internet speed and improving environmental sustainability. Now, apparently this hull is absolutely watertight. It is unattended by humans, and the real advantage to this, along with not having to take up space on the dry land, is you don't have to pay for expensive cooling, because all the cooling is done by the ocean water coming by the outside of the hull. It's a 40-foot long vessel, contains 12 racks of computers and 864 servers, and it's expected to last for 5 years. So that's actually a pretty cool little idea there. Well, the United States has finally managed to regain the title of world's fastest supercomputer, and they've done it with a 340-ton machine called Summit, which is a massively parallel machine. And for the last 5 years, China has held that title. And it's not like it's really that big a deal, but nations take pride, at least the geeks do, take pride in having the most powerful supercomputers. This one, however, is not expected to retain the title for all that long, because there are already other machines nearing completion that are expected to outperform it. And let's see, it crunches numbers at the rate of 200 petaflops, or 200 quadrillion computations per center. That's a lot of calculations. Boy, what a wonderful rendering engine that would make. Except if it's massively parallel, then the granularity of the task in the computer may not match up all that well. I learned that one the hard way when I tried to put a rendering engine on a connection machine. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customers. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think the supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MicroLeaf Migraine Formula. MicroLeaf is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MicroLeaf for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're coming up on the top of the hour, and we're talking about computers and computer technology. And over in Great Britain, there's been a survey of more than 1,100 Windows 10 users. And the results is that Microsoft has not managed to improve either Windows 10's usability or its reputation since they debuted it. And again, I've tried Windows 10. I wanted to give it a fair shot. And unfortunately, it really borders on the unusable. You have to do so much adjustment, deletion of things like those little live tiles. They just get in the way and they suck up resources. They had a good thing with XP. They should have just stayed with that. It's one of the things I like about Apple. Every once in a while there may be an update to the operating system, but it's usually backward compatible. In the case of Windows, they break your previous software. And that can get to be very, very costly in this economy. Not only having to buy a new machine, new operating system, but buy new versions of all your software. And these days, you can't buy them anymore. You subscribe. The flow of money is endless. It really is not the wonderful computerized future we all dreamed of back when these computers were first coming out in the 70s. Become very greedy out there in Silicon Valley. Okay, the Russian military is getting ready to create a giant cloud system that will serve as their backup internet in the event of a war. The Russian military want to have their own version of the internet, just like the United States does. Now, the internet as we know it today was originally created as a government military-only communication system. It was called the ARPANET. And then it broke out into the public, and everybody hopped on, and it became this amazing phenomenon for social change. But the military started building their own parallel, secured internet. And now Russia's doing exactly the same here. Apparently, Adobe Flash is getting yet another patch for a 0-day exploit. I don't know why people are still using Flash. It is such a known security nightmare. And don't get me wrong, I thought the Flash itself was really cool. In fact, when I was working on Lost, a lot of the TV and video displays were done with Flash animation. And you just play them, and you could actually key them to the keyboard, so the actor would touch a key and something would happen on the screen. There was this very famous chess game that was used to unlock a secret laboratory. That was all done as Flash animation. So that part of it was really fun, but it is a security hassle. All right, we're going to take another break for station identification. We'll be right back after these few words.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking about computers. And apparently the Senate is releasing the Facebook hearing responses, which basically come down to, we're really sorry, we promise we won't do it again. Of course, we've heard that before from social media. No, we're just here to facilitate communications. We're not collecting data on you and selling it to marketers. Yeah, they were. So basically, Mark Zuckerberg appeared to not be aware of allegations until March that Cambridge Analytica may not have deleted Facebook user data obtained from Alexander Kogan's app. And it's just a reminder, everybody's playing fast and loose with the rules here. Now, I'm going to issue a retraction and an apology to Apple because when the Apple Watch was first coming on out there and everybody was all excited about it, and I said, I really didn't know that it was going to be that useful. That was based on my having bought a third-party smartwatch to go with my wife's Android phone, to try and help her be more productive. And she wound up not using it, so I played with it a little bit, and it really didn't make a lot of sense. But I noticed in my wife's church, in her choir, everybody's wearing them. So I got to play with a couple of them and see how they really worked. And finally, I had an opportunity to buy one at a really good price from somebody who had bought it as a gift for one of their children, but the child in question thought it was a fashion insult or some such thing. So I got it at a really, really good price. And I have to admit, it is very useful, and it does really enhance the Apple iPhone experience. So Apple designs a really good product. That's the good news. The bad news is that Apple has been hit by a lawsuit claiming faulty manufacturing over the Apple Watch. Kenneth Siaka from Colorado has sued the tech giant in its home state of California, claiming that Apple was aware of an issue in all generations of its smartwatch that can cause its screen to crack or detach through no fault of the owner. And it has to do with the fact that the battery can swell. And by the way, that's what killed the Android-based smartphone that was the predecessor of this. So great in the design, not so good in the execution. And that seems to have become a theme for a lot of Apple products. Remember the iPhone 6 would actually bend if you had it in your pocket when you sat down? Now, we keep hearing this phrase, PC has gone mad. And yes, it has. And apparently, the latest expression of that is that there was this salad emoji. Emojis are the big thing. They've even got a poo emoji, but there was a salad emoji. But it was declared to be offensive to vegans because it had an egg, a little sliced egg, as part of the graphic. That has now been removed to save smartphone users who are vegan and highly sensitive from having to look at the egg. Don't we really have more important things to be worrying about? That's one of the reasons I really detest this political correct hypersensitivity mode. It's distracting us from looking at things that are far more important than what gender pronoun we are using. And that's probably part of the actual intent here, to get us all just monitoring each other, make sure that you're saying the correct speech, the correct word, instead of paying attention to the important things going on, like, are we going to have a nuclear world war? By the way, somebody wrote in to just share with me that following the announcement or the conclusion of the Trump-Kim Jong-un summit, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Leonardo, I can't even pronounce that one, Boeing, saw their stocks go down today. I wouldn't worry about it. There's always another war on the horizon. And I don't think the holders of those stocks need to really worry. It's the people who live underneath those weapons who have to worry. Now, here's an interesting science development. There is a private company in the United Kingdom that says it has successfully tested a prototype nuclear fusion reactor at temperatures hotter than the sun. And this company is hoping to have actual power stations built from this technology to start operation in 2030. Now, over the past few years, there have been a number of nuclear fusion breakthroughs with different teams sustaining hydrogen and helium plasmas for varying amounts of times. They're saying they're still a little way off from useful nuclear fusion reactors, but they're going in the right direction. Enough time and enough money, they will definitely get there. All right, we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. One of the problems of living in a corporate-dominated world is that very often, for all the talk about being progressive politically, our world is not progressing in terms of the consumer-level technology. Obviously, the oil companies want us to go on using oil and gas until they run out, the wells run dry. The electric company wants us to use their electric generators and puts up resistance against solar panels and so forth and so on. Fusion power, it would be really, really good. It produces very little in the way of nuclear waste, certainly not the problems that you have coming out of the fission reactors. But again, the established industries will try and prevent any new developments from coming along. There was a movie out several years ago called Tucker, A Man in His Dream, and it was about the Tucker Torpedo, which was a car built by this small car company, and they just were attacked by the existing big three automakers and driven eventually out of business. But the car itself was innovative. It had seat belts, safety glass window, and it was built incredibly well. There are still a lot of them on the roads to this very, very day. But it was a good story about how established corporations will get absolutely vicious at not allowing any competition in, especially when the politicians are on their side. Beekeepers in France are not happy with Bayer, and Agent France Press has reported a beekeeping cooperative in the northern part of the country has filed a legal complaint against the company after the controversial herbicide glyphosate was found in honey. This complaint was filed the same day as the close of Bayer's acquisition of Monsanto. And by the way, for those of you keeping track, a judge has just cleared AT&T's acquisition of Time Warner. Glyphosate is a dangerous chemical. That has been established. Monsanto/Bayer has been selling it on this claim that it only works on plants. It's perfectly safe for humans. And I remember this funny video where there was a Monsanto sales representative who was at this convention pushing the line. This is safe enough to drink. And somebody handed him a glass and said, There's some glyphosate. Have a sip. And he said, I'm not stupid. And he put the glass down and he walked away. We know that the World Health Organization has declared it a probable human carcinogen. We know that there have been laboratory studies showing that, yes, it does cause tumors in test animals. But it's still being sold out there. Because when your corporation gets big enough, the government becomes afraid of you. And we're toxifying our environment. We're toxifying our own food. They spray glyphosate on harvested food as a preservative. And we don't know what it's doing to us over the long term. We don't know what any of these chemicals are doing long term. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how some of the new chronic ailments afflicting modern society seem linked to the destruction of the gut biome, the friendly bacteria that we need to properly digest our food, leading to things like Crohn's disease. And the way our society works is they put chemicals in the food, they make you sick, they sell you medicine to make you better, supposedly, rather than curing the problem. And I found another article today, this one was about Parkinson's disease, where they said a new study was showing that Parkinson's does not begin in the brain. It ends up there, obviously, but it too begins in the gut with the destruction of certain of the friendly bacteria we need to symbiotically survive with. In the name of greed, we are poisoning our world. Now, on the lighter side of things here, Google co-founder Larry Page has started up what's called Project Kitty Hawk, and it's a flying car project, the dream of motorists and aviators for ages. This one is actually more of a glorified drone with multiple rotors. You don't need a pilot's license. It doesn't go above 10 feet in the air. It'll only go for 20 miles an hour, and it only has a range of 20 minutes. So it's not really practical. It's just a toy. But on the video I saw of it, it looked like it was really, really cool. So some fun stuff going on out there. NASA has decided to delay the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope to 2020. Apparently, they're still dealing with issues. I mean, if you look at animations of how it's supposed to deploy in space, that's a very complex mechanism that they're dealing with. If you're my age, you remember the old joke about somebody looking at a car and saying, it'll never work, there are too many moving parts. Well, I got that feeling looking at this, and it really is a little too complex. And when you consider where they're deploying it to, and how unreachable it will be, even if we had a space shuttle. You know, it's got to work on the first time or it doesn't work at all. And I remember when the Hubble Space Telescope went up and it did not work on the first time. They had to send up a repair mission on that one. Now, if you're following along with biotech, you have probably heard of a company and a technology called CRISPR, and it's a gene editing tool. And it edits cells' genomes. But recent research is showing that there may be unintended side effects. There was an earlier issue where CRISPR was accidentally editing sections of the genome that were not supposed to change. That got taken care of. But now 2 studies published recently is saying that the edited genomes with CRISPR-Cas9 will increase the risk that the altered cells will trigger cancer. Needless to say, CRISPR stock crashed on that one. And it's another reminder that genetic technology is the most dangerous technology humans have ever played with. Far worse than nuclear power. You're tinkering with the code of life. Now, as you know, we were talking the other day about how the CDC is coming on out and talking about suicide rates are skyrocketing. and they're trying to say it's the economy, it's this, it's that. I think there's definitely a link to the overabundance of prescription antidepressants. And people were talking also about the fact that the number of opioid overdoses is increasing. So it was only a matter of time before NBC News comes on out and says how many of these opioid overdoses are suicides. And it's not unreasonable because somebody who's become addicted on opioids and can't get off, that's a pretty terrible existence. And a lot of heroin addicts or pill addicts will reach a point where they'd rather not live anymore than have to deal with that. And right now, one of the reasons we have an opioid crisis is because the pharmaceutical companies are just pushing this stuff. They're incentivizing the doctors to write these prescriptions. So, now, getting on over to medical marijuana. As you know, over in Utah, they have a medical marijuana initiative, and the Mormon Church came out hard against it, saying this is wrong, this is sinful, this is against God and everything. Somebody leaked a document proving that the Mormon Church owns nearly $1 billion in big pharmaceutical stocks. So I think their motives were a little less than godly to oppose medical marijuana. Now, apparently, there is a push to pull back on the federal law regarding marijuana and allow the states to decide for themselves. Some obviously will. And you look at the states where not just medical marijuana, but recreational marijuana has been legalized. It's doing very well. And the states are making money off the taxes attached to it. Obviously, the tobacco and the alcohol companies aren't very happy about that. But then tobacco isn't that good for you, and neither is alcohol. Marijuana is actually not as bad for you as either of those. But the reason they push alcohol is because you're not allowed to make it in your home. The reason they push tobacco is because it takes a large plantation to grow those plants, as opposed to the window box in your backyard. But I'll be very honest, if they legalize it here in Hawaii, you know, Claire and I will get some. Enjoy the pakalolo. That's what we call it in Hawaiian. Pakalolo means crazy smoke. Over at ScienceAlert.com, they've got a study that has determined that 11 million people in the United States could be taking the wrong heart medication. And this study is saying that there's a set of calculations known as pooled cohort equations that are used to determine the risk of a heart attack or stroke. And the PCEs are the Foundation for Cardiovascular Disease Prevention Guidelines in the United States. But it's a number crunching game. And depending upon the numbers you put in there, the PCE calculators, I mean, they have these smartphone applications, may come up with the wrong medication for that particular individual patient. This one-size-fits-all approach to medicine is not working out because we are all slightly different. We all have different blood types, as one very obvious example. And certainly this one-size-fits-all approach to psychiatric medicine doesn't work. For a lot of people, these pills do work. For a lot of other people, it triggers violence and suicide. Now, speaking of drugs, story out of York Press in Great Britain. Apparently, they tested the water in the rivers in York, England. Scientists found 29 different drug compounds in the River Ouse and the River Foss, including some from drugs not usually available in Great Britain, thought to have been ingested by American and Chinese tourists. Now, the university team is saying the levels are extremely low. Drinking 2 liters of river water would give you about 1/1,000,000th of a patient's daily dose of one drug. But there are concerns over the long-term implications, because you're not talking about drinking that water once. You're talking about drinking it several times a day, every day of the week, every week of the year, every year of your life. Does it have a cumulative effect? Some drugs do. The world is becoming over-medicated, and we're starting to see the side effects of it. Over in the Daily Mail, they're running a story about how the International Space Station might be doomed. And they're raising the hue and cry because budget cuts to the ISS could cause the U.S. to lose the space race to Russia and China. This is coming from former Congressman Bob Barr. We're going to take a break here for some commercials. We're going to come on back and finish up on this story. We got a few more stories to go, and then we should get some phone calls in here to finish out the program. So we'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations. A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job in one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And former Congressman Bob Barr is out there sounding the alarm that the International Space Station is doomed because NASA is short of money. and is going to cut funding. Now, I don't think that's going to doom the International Space Station. I imagine that Russia and China and other nations would be glad to take up the slack on that, because after all, Russia and SpaceX are, private company, are the only ones getting people and supplies up there and down. So we'll see what's going to happen on that. But what Bob Barr is saying is that because our commitment to space is still relatively weak, that we are losing the space race to Russia and China. And unfortunately, he is very much correct on that. And we couldn't get up to our own space station anymore. I mean, after the shuttle went down, that was it. Now, SpaceX is trying to make space private, and there may be some help there. But we're spending too much of our money on war. And war is destructive. War produces nothing of any new technological value. Well, yet I take that back. Yes, weapons developers invent new technology, but it's never made public until it's so old it's hopelessly obsolete. But I would definitely like to see less war and more space exploration. Okay, let's go to the phones here. Robert, behind enemy lines, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Hey, buddy. I don't usually call into the shows. I've been a long-time listener, you and others, the Hagman Report, others. And, I really do appreciate so much what you guys are doing for us. I mean, you're fighting the hard fight right now. You're trying to get information out. And I so appreciate that. I really do. I just wanted you to know that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
the kind
words.
There are a lot of the silent majority out here that are listening to you. I mean, there are so many people out here that don't feel justified discussing the content of their belief with their neighbors because, well, take myself. I'm sitting behind enemy lines, as they call it. I would call that California with a K.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm actually in the process of selling 2 of the 3 properties that I have to just get the heck out of here. I've just had so much of this. I've had to meet it face to face every day. I'm sitting here in California. I'm in the Bay Area. I get to see the fruit of the liberal movement. It's just ridiculous. It's so disgusting. You don't want to get me started on that. But no, actually, the reason I called in, you might find it humorous, but just a little while ago, you and your wife, I assume, have decided that if marijuana were to be legal, you might get some.
Yeah.
That tickled me. That really tickled me. I didn't take you as a potential stoner, and yeah, there's nothing against that. Nothing at all. But I do really appreciate the fact that while Bill Clinton said, I never inhaled, you are willing to actually come out and say, I don't see a problem with this.
Yeah.
And it's not about the pot. The reason I bring that up is because it is a state of mind that we all need to be practicing right now, not the pot, but the ability to make a choice to say, I am willing to stand up for what I believe in. And Twitter and Facebook are doing exactly the opposite for everybody right now. Everybody wants to get involved in that. They're just making an illusion for themselves, and they're playing around in it like a sandbox. It's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
Yeah, and social media, I think it's destroying our ability to interact with each other on a personal level. You'll see people
I agree with you.
Sitting in the same room, texting back and forth to each other, along with the fact that a lot of us old-timers, if you will, are starting to get spinal problems in the neck from constantly the head being down all the time. So there's an issue there as well.
I make sure to keep my computer up on the shelf just to make sure I have to look up to see it.
Yeah, I have everything up here on stilts as well. Same in Claire's
I
office.
know. I see you on video every day. I'm pretty familiar with your operation there. Believe it or not, Mike, I've done my research on you up and down as if I were a private investigator. I really wanted to really sniff you out and see what I thought of you. And I would like your listeners to know that after everything that I have done to try to find any dirt whatsoever on you, all I have found is a reason to be proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Hey, no problem, brother.
Very,
No
very
problem.
kind thing here.
Well, it's not just kind, it's honest. It's not
You know,
just kind. I'm just being honest.
This
I'm
may
not
seem
sitting
like a
here
strange thing for
looking
somebody who
for
used to work in the entertainment industry, but I sometimes get very uncomfortable when being complimented, and I don't know why. That's some flaw inside my makeup here where, being complimented makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So if I seem to hesitate, it's not you, it's me. In any event, Robert,
No,
we're
it's
going to
you
have to
soaking
take a
it
break
in.
for commercials.
It's only soaking it in. That's all right. You escaped Hollywood without a tainted smell. You're good. You're all
right.
good.
Well, thank you. We got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We have another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here to John up in Humboldt County. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I was a little bit on the delay side, but you were talking about the company out in Britain.
Yes.
That created that's working on it. Do you know about ITER? ITER. It's about 200 miles south of CERN, and I think that's where a lot of our trillions of dollars are going to. Just go to their website, and it'll blow your mind. But there's a documentary, if you have Amazon Prime. It's called "Let the Light Save Us," I think is what it's called, and it's pretty telling. I was pretty amazed that they're actually opened it up to the public as much as they have. But they're building a sun on the planet, just like you said. They're building it. They've been 70 years. They even have batons passed off by physicists.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website right now, and yeah, it looks like they're well on their way as well. And of course, all of these are hot fusion systems. And you know, I mean, the Russians were working with the tokamak design. The Chinese have something
that's what this is based on, is the tokamak.
Okay. Well, the trick is to have a plasma that hot and not let it actually touch anything that can melt, and that's what makes all of these things work.
Right, I got you. But if you look at the size of that facility, it's like CERN, man. So I think they're well on their way of doing something. Whether we survive it or not, they're doing it.
Yeah, that is a big facility.
We'll give you some money for thought there, sir, and you have a good night.
All right, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to let you
Claire to heal that and be safe. All right.
I'm sorry?
Okay. I said tell Claire to be healthy and be safe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're working on that. And, you know, the hard part now is to keep her from, you know, she's starting to feel better. And the hard part is keeping her from, like, leaping up and trying to do things she ought not to be doing. So,
of course.
Velcro helps.
A little bit of duct tape, you know.
Yeah, that'll do as well here. All right, well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. Now, up on Mars, there's been this huge dust storm that has hit the Opportunity rover. And it's basically stalling the robot's science work. And these Martian storms, they can be intense. And along with this very fine grit getting into places it should not be, there's the issue of the solar panels getting coated to the point where they can't generate the necessary electricity. And earlier in the dual rovers missions, I forget whether it was Spirit or Opportunity, but one of them, the solar panels had become quite thick with the dust, and it was affecting their ability to generate power. Fortunately, as you know, there are these little dust devil vortexes that dance across the ground, and one of them, just by pure blind luck, hit the rover dead on, swept it off absolutely clean. So extended its mission there. But these dust storms can be intense. They can even involve the entire planet, and they can last for a very, very long time. It's one of the weird atmospheric phenomenon of Mars. They're still figuring out what's going on. Way, way back, when the best that we could do was fling spaceships past Mars once, there was one of the Mariners, I think it was Mariner 9, that after the long flight out there to Mars, got there, uncorked its cameras, and discovered there was a huge dust storm obliterating the surface. So just swung on by, and that was basically the end of that. But now with the orbiters, of course, you can just wait it on out. Now this is really exciting. Japan has launched a probe called Hayabusa 2, and its mission is to grab a piece of an asteroid and return it to Earth for analysis. And the probe has already photographed Ryugu, which is the asteroid it's scheduled to start orbiting later this month. So it's basically on board there. Now, here is the interesting part, and the reason why they're starting to pay attention to the asteroids. This is from IntelliHub. And it's saying that basically, were there to be developed an economic means of getting into orbit, that there could be a new gold rush out there in the asteroid belt. And apparently bankers like Goldman Sachs and several companies are putting serious money and research into this. Now, NASA is estimating that the total value of the metal content of the asteroids out there could be up to $700 quintillion. That's like billions for every one of us here on Earth. Of course, they'll keep it all for themselves. But that, if that would really be possible, it would open up the commercial exploitation of space. That would accelerate the technology along. And even better, we would have less reason to be going into each other's countries for the little scraps of metals and elements buried under that soil. Why go to war? Just go to space. Get what you need there. Designate an area on Earth where it's all going to land when it comes back down from space. And you've got your rare earth elements. Probably a lot of silver and gold up there as well. And I think it's a really, really good idea. And so good for the Japanese that they're getting this thing done. Good for the Japanese. All right. I have actually run out of talking points again. I need more bad things to happen to keep my show filled up. That's the irony of this job here. So let's see what's going on. Oh, this was a story that just came on in. This appeared in WorldNet Daily. And apparently the Obama administration has been exposed as engaging in the wholesale destruction and loss of tens of thousands of government records that should have been preserved by law. Now, Thomas Lipscomb, the founding publisher of Times Books, explained at A Real Clear Politics that National Archivist David Ferrero discovered in the process of transferring Obama administration records in the National Archives that many key records are missing. Now, this dovetails with the growing awareness that Obama himself was in charge of this Get Trump operation involving planting FBI spies in the Trump campaign. And if Obama was also tangled up with the Uranium One deal or the Clinton Foundation or whatever it was Hillary Clinton was really doing with that email server, then yes, he would want those records to disappear. So now that has definitely come on out. Just more politics and more corruption. Our government is totally out of control. It's totally, totally, totally out of control. Okay, now... So let's talk about, well, let's go back and talk about the medical industrial complex, because that is a major, major problem as I see it. In the name of more profits, they're selling medications not just to ill people, but to perfectly healthy people, in some cases making them ill in the process. They're selling so many medications that it's starting to get into the environment and the water supply. And we're being reassured that it's not enough to harm us, but we don't really know. Nobody's ever done a study what the long-term exposure to some of these medications can do, especially if it's a medication that you're not supposed to have, something like blood pressure medicine. And your blood pressure is just fine. We have to wonder, what are all these chemicals doing to life forms downstream, like fish that we eat? Do the fish accumulate the medication over the time of their life? And then when you eat the fish, you get a really serious dose of it. Nobody knows because nobody's found out. It's like there's this big thing. Don't talk about it. We're too busy making money. We don't want to talk about what's going on in the environment. And I often wonder, looking at the linkage between prescription antidepressants and violent behavior and muddled thinking, if one of the reasons our government is behaving the way that it's behaving, along with the usual corruption, is they're on these medications and they're not thinking clearly. And that might explain why some of the policy seems so disjointed from day to day to day to day. When I was a kid, pharmacies were very small. And generally, when you went to the doctor, you might not get a prescription unless there was something specific. And you'd use up that one prescription and that would be it. Today, though, the average American, once they fall into that prescription medicine trap, they'll have something like 16 bottles in their medicine chest. And that is really kind of an ugly situation. And people who have multiple doctors, you've got to be very careful about contraindications. Fortunately, most pharmacies now have computer systems that automatically check if the combination of drugs you've been prescribed is harmful. So that's an important step in the right direction. But I think we need to go back to a policy of less medication, not more. Because I think we're over-medicated. And I think it's having detrimental effects. But it's all making money. It's all making money. Oh, here's a story that just came in from BuzzFeed. People are still reacting to the summit between Trump and Kim Jong-un. And apparently, former Air Force Lieutenant General Dan Figleaf says that the only way forward with North Korea is to talk about the war. And I think he's absolutely right. And that's something that wasn't really covered in the summit. Technically, the Korean War is still ongoing. It's America's longest running war in all of its history. Now, there's been this ceasefire, armistice, if you will, in the DMZ zone since. Excuse me a second. And, excuse me, it's a foggy day. All right. Okay. Just give me a second to give a good cough, and I'll get my voice back. Okay, I think I'm a little better. All right. So, we're talking about the Korean War, and we're talking about how it's still ongoing. There is still that DMZ with the world's largest minefield, and it's time for that to come down. Now, I know that the two Koreas would like to end the war and reunify, but that wasn't discussed at the summit. In fact, in that document laying out the plans between Trump and Kim Jong-un, mentions of South Korea were notably absent, other than a generic reference of the Korean Peninsula. So this general is absolutely right. This has to be addressed. If we're really going to move forward, somebody has to say the war is over. And don't even get caught up in who won or who lost. It no longer matters this many years after it's over. But you got to say the war is over, and you've got to let things go back to normal. It's not like the United States does not have enough wars to play with and keep the military-industrial complex happy. We're dropping bombs all over the place. We're killing civilians in Syria. We're killing civilians in Yemen. How much war does one country really need to have? I think it's what it comes down to. So there's way too much war. But yeah, that's the issue. And again, we have to be careful that certain individuals don't try and mess this up, because we know that there are people who want the war with North Korea to move forward. Even though we're already stuck in all these other wars, it's like they have this fantasy of an endless supply of weapons and an endless supply of soldiers, and both of those are not true. They're running out of ammunition, bombs. They're using them faster than they can make them. A lot of our weapons are old and worn out. They're not really designed to last all that long. When they design a military system, they run a calculation of how long they think it will survive in combat. And that's what they design it to last. If they think this particular type of military weapon is only going to last maybe 6 months before it gets blown up, they're not going to build it to last 5 years. They'll build it to last a year just to be safe. But the stuff wears out really fast. It's one of the reasons these warplanes can be so expensive. They go through parts very rapidly. They're after speed, agility, altitude, which they didn't get with the F-35. But they're actually built a lot like, for example, Formula One racing cars, just stripped right to the bone, with all the high tech added on. But how much war do we really need? And I think most of us are very worried that the problem is going to be somebody's going to make a mistake and there will be a nuclear explosion. And everybody will just panic and react in order to get their weapons aloft before their own bases get nuked. Or we could have an asteroid hit someplace on planet Earth, someplace in Russia, someplace in the Great Plains. And everybody says, oh my goodness, it's a nuclear attack, and they all hit the buttons. And so the planetary response to an act of nature, an asteroid strike, would be our self-immolation. We need to go back and relearn the lessons of the original Cold War, just how many times we came close to actually launching those horrible weapons. And that's what they are. They're horrible weapons. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break. We're going to listen to some words from our sponsors. I'm going to try and get my throat cleared. And we'll be back with the last segment of our program today after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. I got my voice back here from whatever the heck that was. Apparently, the Syrian army is reinforcing its air defenses near the Golan frontier as tensions with Israel continue. This is from a Syrian army commander just earlier today. And apparently in the coming days, additional backup is set to be deployed as the conflict has moved toward the southwest region of the country. Now remember that Syria announced, we're going into the southwest, we're going after ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It's a U.S. occupied area. Syria is saying, don't get in our way. We're just after ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We're going to see what's going to happen there. Meanwhile, of course, you've got Israel that loves to fling missiles into Syria, and I think that's why they're boosting their defenses. All right, we got a caller on the line, Mateus in Canada. Aloha, Mateus. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Mike. Sounds like you're talking about a serious topic still. Mind if I change the topic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, remember you were talking about those auto dealerships bugging the showrooms so they can hear what you're talking about and use it against you?
Yep.
Well, let's use that against them. We can use psychology against them. So what you do is you know that you're being recorded, or you suspect you are, but you pretend that you don't know that. And then you tell your wife, okay, guys, no, you say, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to offer him this, and if he says no, then we're going to go back to the other dealership and just buy that one for this price. But we're going to try to get him down a little bit. But, you know, our real price is this, but tell him it's this. So we can totally use that against them. And they'll think that they'll be under pressure thinking that if they reject your offer, that you've already got a backup plan, you're leaving, and that you've already told your wife you're doing it.
Well, you know, I know that car dealers have these horrible reputations, and some of them deserve it. I mean, I spent a really long time going to a bunch of dealers trying to find a replacement for our stolen Honda, and the experiences were not always pleasant. But the guy that we finally dealt with, who we were referred to by, friendly connection, personal connection, personal recommendation, actually was very nice, very low-key, very Hawaiian. And we actually did have a very good experience with him. We got ourselves a really nice car. We paid cash for it. We don't have to worry about payments on it. We're enjoying it as much as we can on Hawaii's deteriorated roads.
And if I may do another equally sharp topic change?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's no smooth transitions here.
Yeah, real quick, though, because we're almost out of time.
Okay, I've seen about 1,000 rapes and murders in my lifetime simulated on TV, but I've actually seen 0 rapes and murders in real life, and I sometimes wonder, like, how much that affects me, like, how much more innocent or how much of a nicer person would I be, or more peaceful, or if I imagine going through life never having once see a simulated rape or murder or horrible beating or torture. Like, we all might be a happier population if it wasn't for this constant, like.
Well, I think we're out of time here, I'll tell you what, feel free to call in tomorrow because this deserves a lengthy answer and we just don't have the time. So, Mateus, thank you. We're going to let you go. Please stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it in email, personal conversations. It's time to bring back the art of the personal interaction. We're losing that in this computerized world. So, we'll see you tomorrow. Aloha, America.